Oh,
Charlie, my beans won't grow.
where did you put them?
Along the edge of my garage.
Did you take them out of the can?
Good one, Jerry.
Oh, Jerry.
Well, on that note, wah, 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 wah. It's bright and early. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Rotary Club of St. Albert morning Zoom meeting number 1509 on June 11th, 2021. I'm your host, President Mark Dixon. I recognize the executive members present, board members present, fellow Rotarians, guests, pets, children, plants, and bean sprouts. Please rise for the singing of O Canada. How lovely was that? And our land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on Treaty 6 territory, traditional lands of First Nations and Métis peoples. As treaty people, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, we share the responsibility for stewardship of this beautiful land. Our inspirational moment is brought to us this morning by our favorite guest Rotarian, Ken McCrae. If he's still there, there he is. He's on mute. There he is.
All right, there we go. Good morning, everybody. As I was thinking about what to say this morning, in the past, we've talked about being inspired by international programs, by the youth, by exchange students, and various other methods. As I thought about today, I wanted to, this came to mind. So I've been a Rotarian for over 30 years, 18 years with this club. I've had the pleasure, the privilege of working alongside a whole multitude of great people. And as I spend this last COVID time busier than ever and finding less time for Rotary, I look out at what we've been doing during this past time. And I look at all the new faces that have joined that appear to me every week when I come on board, or the few weeks I come on board, Mark. But and I can't help but think that I'm inspired by this club, by the new faces that are here, by the new members that have joined in, jumped on board, by the old members, Charlie, Doug, Ash, you know who you are, that continue to perform and dig in and do all the things that we do to help make this community great. So that's my inspiration, is just being a member of this club.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ken. Really appreciate it. Introduction of guests. Daria, why don't we start with you?
Sure, I can go first. We have Kris Knutson with us. He's the Director of Programs at the Mustard Seed Edmonton, and I will give a bit more intro for Kris just before his presentation soon.
Wonderful. Welcome, Kris. Do we have any other guests? I'm not seeing any other than our very own Natalia. So you know what that means. That means we get to sing the welcome song. Everybody.
Welcome to Rotary Land.
You are here. Come shake our hands and share a friendly cheer.
Whether
I can't do it, Mark.
or whether from far, we hope that you will like our little song because we're proud of St. Albert and you're free. Our club enjoys some great camaraderie. So we do what we can to help with the needs of our community with our friends at Rotary. With our friends at Rotary.
Outstanding. Oh, hang on. Let's not do that. So, without further ado, our guest speaker, Mr. Kris Knutson.
Okay, so as I mentioned, Kris is the Director of Programs at the Mustard Seed Edmonton. And for over 20 years, Kris has worked with those struggling with poverty, homelessness, and marginalization in Edmonton. Recently, Kris was one of the directors who was overseeing the shelter operations at the Edmonton Convention Center this past winter. So welcome, Kris, and I'll pass it over to you now.
You're on mute, Kris.
So the case of always being muted when you want to speak. Thanks for having me this morning. I fully appreciate the invitation to come and speak with the Rotary Club this morning. I had the opportunity to come and speak with your club a number of years ago over at Sturgeon Valley Golf Course, and really enjoyed myself. So I appreciate being welcome back. The topic that I was given to speak about today is one that I guess is really at the forefront, especially over these last 18 months, when we talk a lot about frontline workers, and whether that's our first responders, whether that's nurses in the ERs, up on the units in the hospitals, or those working in our social sector, and just the pressures that they have faced over this last year. And so before I kind of dive into the present situation, I'll give you a bit of my history. I started working in the inner city of Edmonton back in the late 90s as a frontline worker. I had the opportunity to do that for a number of years, working with men and women who were struggling with addictions, homelessness, mental illness, those that you would typically see on the inner city streets of Edmonton back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Over that time, I had the experience of burning out a couple of times, I'd like to say, over the years, of experiencing firsthand the pressures of frontline workers, and then growing through that and taking on different roles in the organization that I'm currently with, the Mustard Seed, and then supporting frontline workers. And so when I'm speaking today, I speak both from experience of the pressures, of the craziness of frontline work at times, some of the trauma that frontline workers face, as well as how do we navigate and manage and stay healthy in it. So that's kind of my history and kind of where we're going to go today on this presentation. What I really want to do is sort of set the stage for where our frontline workers are right now, because I think it's really important to note that the environment is quite different than it was even 3-4 years ago for what our frontline workers are facing, both due to the pandemic, but also, I'll highlight this on a number of occasions, the opioid crisis in Alberta and Canada has put just a whole new set of pressures on our frontline workers that they experience. So currently, our frontline workers, I'll maybe start with the ECC, or the Edmonton Convention Center. That was an initiative that just happened, took off in October of 2020, the city of Edmonton approached 3 agencies in Edmonton, the Mustard Seed, Bissell Center, and Boyle Street Community Services, to operate a emergency 24/7 shelter that would serve the homeless population here in Edmonton. And this arose due to the COVID restrictions that we are all quite familiar with. When COVID hit in the inner city, the capacity at the shelter systems, the drop-in centers, that all diminished. A lot of them were cut by 50%, 60%, even as much as 70%, having their capacity diminished due to the spatial restrictions. How many people can you fit into a room? How many people can sleep in a shelter? So all that kind of hit at the same time. And for our homeless population, the impact was pronounced. It was when the rest of us were told to go home and isolate. If you're homeless and you're told to go home and isolate, you have nowhere to go. And so they saw the shelters space cut. They also saw public spaces diminished. And for our homeless population who would often access, whether it's the library, city center, the malls, even other public spaces to use, everything from washrooms to showers, a lot of those became closed down. And so all of a sudden our homeless population just had really nowhere to go. On top of being homeless, they couldn't even access a space to use a washroom. And so recognizing this, the city of Edmonton decided that they would turn the convention center into a 24/7 shelter. And so this started in October. And I think this is a great highlight of the stresses on our frontline staff. So October, we were told we were supposed to operate for 350 people, 24 hours a day. This would be a low barrier space, which meant, sobriety wasn't required to get in. Pretty much anybody could come through that front door. The space offered services from meals to clothing. We had medical on site. We had a safe consumption site, which was a very unique. This is the first time that we put a safe consumption site into a shelter. And so we had the safe consumption site there, overnight services, and cultural services provided by Bent Arrow Society. All this happened under one roof. And so none of us had been through this before as an agency. And so our frontline staff were kind of thrown into this. And just to give you a couple of the numbers that we experienced over 6 months, the Edmonton Convention Center saw over 5,000 individuals access that space. That's 5,000 Edmontonians who needed the services that were provided there. Of those 5,000, there were 120,000 visits to the center in 6 months. And so you can imagine just sort of how chaotic this is. You need to remember that we are working with individuals who have a high acuity, high levels of mental illness, high levels of addiction, and high levels of just social disorder that I would say that just due to their lifestyles, whether they camp, they're sheltered, whatever. So this is the population that surrounded and kind of came down to the convention center and that our frontline staff were working with. And so being open 24 hours a day, there's no space to rest. There's no time, there's no downtime. There's no, hey, we're closing at 5 o'clock. It's just one shift rolling into another shift of responding to the need that was presenting itself there. The safe consumption site was a very unique dynamic there. Our staff responded to over 760 overdoses over the course of 6 months. And that is with a safe consumption site on present. So that's 760 individuals who overdosed in bathrooms, out in the smoking area, alongside the building, just all around it. So that produced a stress that we had not experienced before on staff. We have never seen overdoses at this level before, and this many. So if you break it down to 180 days, 760 overdoses every day, you can kind of do the math and go, like, every day we were responding to this. And I think what I saw with our staff was the emotional trauma of recognizing that each of those incidents is a life-saving incident. And it's that pressure that if you don't respond soon enough, this person will die. And so our staff carried that stress into every shift, knowing that they would be responding. It wasn't an if they would respond to an overdose, it was when, and would they get there soon enough. And so that was one of the stressors that are new to our inner city frontline workers, is the level of overdoses. So you couple that with, I can't remember the number, I could take a quick peek. We had about 800 incidents of violence at the convention center over that period of time. And that could include, for us, violence includes everything from physical violence to sexual harassment, racial harassment, violence between community members, and that sort of spectrum. So our staff responded to numerous incidents of violence, whether it was, two people fighting, or us having to try to remove somebody out of the space due to behavior that we could not tolerate into the space. So these are all of the stressors that staff kind of went through over the last 6 months at the Edmonton Convention Center. And it really did show us both what it means to work with people who have experienced trauma, and also the trauma that staff experience doing this type of work. Doing the frontline type of work really does take its toll. Day in and day out, you're working with people that have really complex needs, and you're trying the best just to meet their basic needs, let alone try to meet some of those higher level needs, such as the mental health supports, or even trying to get them into housing. For our frontline staff, it's trying to make sure that they're sheltered, that they have adequate food, appropriate clothing, and have access to other resources if needed. So there's a lot of pressure for the frontline staff. And what we saw and what I've seen over the years is the amount of abuse that frontline staff often take. Is really unfortunate, but given the nature of the population we work with, like the verbal assaults, the sexual harassment, the racial harassment is really high within these shelter spaces and drop-ins. And it's a reality of the job, but it takes its toll. As one of my wonderful site leads kind of said after a 4-day rotation, she goes, I don't know how many more times I have my life threatened before I'm just going to walk out of here and just say, I'm done. That was the type of environment they're working in. And so it really does, given the craziness of the last 18 months, we're very sensitive to how our staff are doing, our frontline staff. It has been, like most of us, the changes have come rapidly for our staff, even from going back to March of 2020, when we all thought this was going to be a 4 to 6 week kind of little situation that would take place, then we get back to life as normal. Frontline staff have had to open shelters and close shelters. They've moved around to different locations. They've been hired, they've been laid off, they've been rehired. They've been brought into spaces that they're not typically used to working in. And all the while, they've been expected to respond to the needs of our homeless population in Edmonton with compassion, with empathy, and have done so in amazing ways. And so I can not speak highly enough of our frontline staff over the course of this last 18 months, the work that they've done and how they've gone about doing it. And for a lot of them, similar to us, even their personal lives were in a lot of crisis. A lot of them were coming from homes where people were being laid off, and kids were being brought in from school and sent back to school and online school. And all the while they're trying to navigate that, plus enter into a place where there's a high level of human need, and to do it and be present and to do it with compassion. So the question is, like, how do you stay sane in an insane world that they were working in right now. And I kind of pondered this question over the week, and kind of, I've had a wonderful chance to observe our staff and how they've done in each of these situations. And I think the first thing that I recognized is our staff work as teams. So they have their teams that they work with, whether it's an overnight team, day team, whatever. That is the beginning of how you stay sane. The healthy team is what makes it through the nights. When our staff are dealing with these overdoses, 2 a.m. at the convention center, it was the team that really supported each other and could walk with each other through this. It was the team that they could debrief with, that they, after their shift, there's a fair amount of dark humor in this type of work, but they could sit with their team and they could laugh, they could be supported, and they could also be vulnerable. One of the things I've really worked at shaping with our teams is that it's okay some nights to say, I just don't have it. And can you just assign me to, I don't know, the water bottle duty tonight? I just don't have the emotional capacity to enter into some of these situations. And when staff can be honest with each other like that, it really does make it much easier to get your team functioning together in a way that's healthy, that cares for those. Because we don't all show up every day, especially this last year, feeling 100% emotionally healthy and ready to take on everything that this world's going to throw at us today. And some shifts, some of our staff just needed to sit at the back bench and do something that didn't require a ton of emotional energy or to interact with some of the intense situations that we do. And so that, to me, was the starting of it. It was really knowing that these teams cared for each other and worked together as a team and functioned together and could trust each other. And they knew when they got there that their team members had their backs, both literally and metaphorically. So that was the first part of in surviving this. I think the next part is, when I think about the years that I've put in, is really having a holistic understanding of the work. And what I mean is, I recognize that when I come into my job here at the Mustard Seed, if I'm a frontline worker, a support worker, an advocate, I have a role to play in helping somebody, but their success, failure doesn't rest on me solely. Often we have people that enter into this work very idealistically, thinking that they're going to save people and that they alone know how to, they have the answers, they're going to do it, they're going to, change the world. And the quicker we realize that it's very complex. Everything from the needs of those we work with is complex. Sometimes the systems we work with is complex. And I need to recognize that I play a part in it, but I don't own the whole of it. And so I don't take that pressure on that I need to get everybody in Edmonton that's homeless housed in the next 2 years. I can play a role. I can provide opportunity for people to take steps forward. I can hopefully navigate systems for them, open doors for them, but I don't hold the responsibility of their lives. And often we can enter into this work thinking we do hold that responsibility, and that's a huge burden to carry. And so it's having that holistic understanding of the work that we do and recognizing we're a piece of it, but the whole thing doesn't depend on us. And we need to do our piece. We need to do it well, but we don't need to carry the burden of Edmonton's homeless situation on our shoulders when we go home at night. The next one was understanding trauma. I think over the years, we've become much better in understanding the impacts of trauma on people. We have, a lot of our agencies will say we have trauma-informed practices. So it's not just the trauma that our community members or those accessing the services have experienced, but we're also getting much better understanding the trauma that our staff experience. And how does that trauma impact them over time? And we're all different. We all respond different emotionally to situations. Our emotional resilience is different. One situation may cause a person to need to take a 2 or 3 day break. Another person, it's a 2 or 3 minute break. And it's not making one better than the other, but it's saying that we all respond different to traumatic situations. For us, for some of our staff to find somebody who is clinically dead on a bathroom floor due to an overdose and start CPR and everything else, that can be an extremely emotional event that lingers for months afterwards. And then as we, as supervisors, employers, directors, leaders, how do we care for those staff and provide opportunity for them to heal as well, especially in an environment where that trauma just doesn't stop. The following day, the same staff may be involved in another overdose incident. So how do we care for them? And part of what we've learned is really to be attuned to what they need. Listen to staff when they need breaks. We need to make sure that we have systems in place that can remove them from those environments, and whether that's have them go work at an office for a couple of days, just get out of the environment, move into a different space. But we need to find those ways to care for our staff after those traumatic events have occurred. And I think the other part is, and I'll go back to my early days, is we sometimes get into this work and we meet this massive wall of human need. And so I can remember encountering, the addictions and the homelessness. And back in the late 90s, there's definitely an HIV crisis here in Edmonton going on in the inner city. And I kind of ended up being a bit of a soapbox guy because I just wanted everybody to pay attention to the needs. We needed to solve these problems. We as a community needed to solve these problems. And at some level, it was good. I was able to have a voice in different areas. But I've also learned, been taught by a couple of my really close friends, that at some place you need to put that hat down. Your friends don't want to go for a beer with you. Every time you go out for a beer, you're talking about systemic poverty issues and the homeless crisis and why we need more permanent supportive housing in Edmonton. You quickly start losing invitations to parties and rounds of golf. So it was recognizing that it's important work. The work we do here at Mustard Seed and the other agencies, it is vital, it is important, it is life-saving, but this is not the whole world. And I need to be able to take a hat off and go be Kris. I think the thing that taught me this the most were my daughters. I have two amazing, beautiful teenage daughters who actually don't care about homelessness right now in their lives. When I come home, they need their dad. They don't need the director of programs from the Mustard Seed. And this was really healthy for me to learn how to switch this, because rather than carrying the load of the work I do, the people we work with, all that, I had to go have conversations about Kardashians. And I had to enter into these other conversations with my daughters and be present to them as their dad. And I think that's one of the healthiest things that we can do as frontline staff, is take that hat off, and recognize there's a time and place to pick that hat up and put it on and be that person, whether it's working at the shelter overnight or, like I said, one of our advocates or whatever your role is. But at the end of your shift, take the hat off, go home, go be the spouse, the parent, the friend. You can talk about the work a little bit, but really to find that break. And I think for a lot of us, we can easily get consumed with our work, and that becomes our whole identity. And that can quickly, especially in this business, can burn you out, because unfortunately, there's a growing need, and you're never going to meet all the needs of this work. The people that walk through our front door have some of the most complex needs, and we're never going to meet them all. So as individuals, we need to know how to put that hat down, how to go and be a whole person, and not just this identity of I work in the inner city, or I'm homeless or whatever. So those are sort of the strategies that I have used in the past. Like I said, I've had a couple burnouts in this career, and I've learned a lot through them. And then especially this last year and a bit, really trying to care for our staff and help them manage all the complexities of COVID and the homeless situation in Edmonton. Yeah, it's taught me a lot. And these are just some of the strategies of just trying to keep sane and making sure you have something that's life-giving. Whether you're a runner, you do yoga, we all need to have something that gives us life. And especially for the folks that I work with who a lot of their work is for them to give life to others, is to provide hope for others. They need a place to go get that refilled. And whatever that is, don't set it aside and really make time for it. It's quite easy, especially these days of working at home. And I know a lot of our staff are, to just let work consume you. You know, you can hop on the computer at 7 a.m. and not get off till 9 p.m. with a couple of breaks for a walk in a refrigerator. Our staff need breaks, and they need to make sure that they're taking care of the rest of their lives. So I guess, does anybody have any questions on all this crazy stuff?
Well, I want to start with Kris, really saying that we appreciate you and value you and your colleagues and the service and supports that you provide. For Rotarians, this is a powerful example of service above self. So thank you so much for sharing and opening up. Questions for Kris?
Mark, there are a few in the chat. So there's one that was EPS present at all times or called when a critical incident occurred.
Friend, again, EPS present at all times?
Was it, yeah, were they present at all
No.
times, or were they called when needed?
At the Commonwealth. Yeah.
The relationship with EPS is complex for our industry. Because often you're in the middle of an incident, you phone EPS or EMS, it could be 5 to 10 minutes before they get there. So you're already engaged, you know, if it's an overdose, you're already engaged in providing naloxone, doing CPR, de-escalating situations. Yeah, and so EPS has been a great partner, but in the middle of a crisis, you're often needing to deal with that crisis without them.
Would it have been more beneficial if one or two officers could be situated there at all times? Like, would that have helped?
Oh, at the convention center?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Oh, yes. You know what? That was, yeah, there were security guards, but security guards, typically their mandate is to observe and report.
Yes.
EPS was in and out of there. There was a very complex political situation with EPS at that time between the city and EPS, and there's a lot of politics being played.
Really? How surprising.
I know. So it wasn't until near the end that we saw a significant presence from EPS. And part of it is there was an increasing gang presence, given the nature of the drug trafficking trade. So
yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Another question in the chat, and then Matt's got his hand up. Did your staff worry that they would get sick? Did you have any outbreaks? Mustard seed is amazing. How do we help?
Okay, yes and yes. Our staff did worry they did get sick. November, we had a massive outbreak ripped through the staffing of all 3 agencies who were involved at the convention center, which decimated the staff because the numbers of staff who got sick weren't very high, but the close contact situation. So if you had one staff on a team go down, you lost your whole team.
Wow.
And so we experienced November and December were really tough on staffing in that situation. So yeah, we had that experience and it was not pleasant. Fortunate to say that all our staff are healthy and well, and you know, we, on top of all the other pressures, you know, dealing with the PPE restrictions and all the other COVID restrictions that we had to put into place, it made it very difficult over the last 6 months at the convention center. So
thank you. Jackie also wants to know, how can we help?
You know what? several things off the top. We need money. I'll just put it out there. We have bills to pay. We have, water bills to pay for, staff to pay for. Aside from that, volunteering, getting involved, and also becoming aware of the issues. The only way we're going to end homelessness is with housing. There's no other solution. We need housing for people on the streets. That is where we need the voices of communities like St. Albert to speak up and speak positively for affordable housing, for supportive housing. We need places where people can live, and we need communities willing to say that we're open, that we would love to have a building for people who are struggling to come and live in our community. Until we can get to that point, it becomes a real struggle to end homelessness if no community wants the homeless in their communities.
Thank you. Matt, you're next.
Hey, Kris, it's Matt and Leanne Carter. Thanks for
Hey guys.
Thanks for an awesome presentation. Crazy year and a bit for you guys. I think about you and your staff, all frontline workers. Have you guys lost employees to stress leave, to whatever? Like where are you at from a staff perspective? And how are we supporting these people?
We've lost some to stress leave. We've actually hired, Matt, we've hired probably about 150 staff over the last year, which is crazy. I mean, and that's not what we want to be doing. Not that we don't want to employ people, but given the nature of the way the shelter system happened, the government came and said, because you can only have so many people in that space, we ended up opening shelters all across the city that all needed to be staffed. So literally in a month, we hired 80 staff and onboarded them and brought them in and started working. So we've lost some of those. We've lost a number of people to stress, especially the convention center, who the environment was just really hard. So we do the best we can to care for them. We really rely on our site leads and our team leads to take care of the frontline staff. And then we as directors take care of them, and hopefully it works its way down to making sure that we have a healthy environment. But at the end of the day, the nature of the work is tough. And some people think they want to do it and they get into it and just realize it's messy and ugly at times. I don't want to downplay the good that happens, and there's some wonderful moments, but the hard moments can be really hard.
That's awesome. You're doing a great job. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Okay, thanks, Matt.
We have a question from Don in the chat. Did you notice an increasing incidence in seniors in your population served?
Yeah, at the convention center we did, and in some of our other shelters. Right now, the stat is there's about 80 to 100 people dropping into homelessness each month in Edmonton and I also add surrounding areas because St. Albert's is experiencing it too. Sherwood Park and that. And we've seen seniors popping up. Now, seniors, often we can divert quickly to some of organizations like SAGE and that, who can help them get them rehoused rapidly. But they are showing up.
Thank you. Jerry, you have your hand up? And you're on mute.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yes, Kris, first of all, just incredible and amazing work that you and your staff do, and behind the scenes that a lot of people aren't aware of. For housing, I know there was some talk of turning the old Edmonton Remand Center into housing. Is there any talk, or is that going forward, or is that shut down?
The last I heard, and that thing has come up over and over again since it closed. Most of the housing providers at Edmonton don't want anything to do with it. It doesn't have a good history with all of our folks. And then just financially, what it would cost to retrofit that thing isn't worth it. You'd be better off just knocking it down and building something different on top of it.
Great, thank you.
Other questions for Kris? Charlie. Mute, my friend.
I was really impressed with when you were talking about how your teams function and if they work and care for each other and help each other, that's extremely important. But I also think that that starts with their supervisor. The supervisor has to do the same kinds of things. And probably a lesson for everyone in the room that has a team that they're working with. Any further comments?
Yeah, I fully believe the teams are what makes us successful in this work. It's not work you can do by yourself. And so we spend a lot of time as leaders at the Mustard Seed strengthening our teams, building our teams, supporting them, finding out what they need to be successful. And in some ways, I think that's my biggest job, is figuring out what they need to be successful and making sure we can provide it for them. And I'm also quite present, and you know, you take this from either our industry or business industry, of recognizing when you have a cancer in your team. And so I need to, I'll be quite honest, I need to know if there's a member of the team that is the problem of the team and it's causing all sorts of problems, right? Because then I have to intervene and try and figure out, is there a way to solve this? Because once somebody starts splitting up your team, then the work starts to diminish and other stuff starts to come out and you lose focus and you start to divert away from your vision because now you're dealing with all the dysfunctions going on in your team. And so I'm very conscious and very sensitive to how our teams are running and make sure that the right people are in the right seats on the bus.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Kris?
I have one more, and I didn't want to monopolize. It's Jackie here. Kris, the opioids is a scary statistic, and I don't know, honestly, how your staff copes with such, such devastating situations. But 760 overdoses that you dealt with, is that the tip of the iceberg? Do you think you have a handle on what's happening in the Edmonton region? Do you think there's thousands more, or do they know that they can get to you? This is just 760 overdoses within the convention center and your places. Maybe just provide a little bit of context of how people are getting to you, the Mustard Seed, for that kind of help.
So we are in an opioid crisis. There's no denying that. For what we're seeing, and so we kind of, I guess, we're the canary in the coal mine on this one. What we're seeing on the street actually is happening in St. Albert. It's happening, Sherwood Park. The drugs that are coming on from when I started 20 years ago, it's a whole different world on the streets with the drugs that are now present, with the fentanyls, carfentanyls, being very present, very cheap, and showing up in drugs. Even when people don't think they're doing them, they can end up doing them because they're just cut into so many of the different drugs. And so, yeah, the 760 was just at the convention center. I have no idea how many across the inner city. We just heard about those 3 men who died just outside Boyle Street. I had a meeting with the Boyle McCauley Health Center, which is a health center right in the inner city. They responded to 63 overdoses on their property last week. And that's right beside their building. And they have a safe consumption site in their building. So it is critical. The addictions are much more intense. And yeah, and now we're dealing, from my perspective, we're now dealing with a medical crisis. This isn't just an addiction crisis. And, philosophically, people have different views on addictions. I see it as a medical crisis, usually born out of trauma. But now we are seeing folks dying in and around the city. Actually, our St. Albert, Sherwood Park are a higher risk of seeing overdose deaths because typically people use alone in their house and nobody's there to find them. Our street folks, if somebody goes down, typically they're with somebody. Just about everybody in the inner city now carries an naloxone. We give it away for free. They can pick it up at any pharmacy. So when they're using, if their friend goes down, they can use it. But we're finding that even at that, the opioids are getting stronger. There's times that people are having to be injected 5 or 6 times with naloxone to get them back. So I wish I had answers for that one. We just see the crisis increasing. And more of our time, our staff are needing to be quite well trained in the response to it.
Thanks a lot. It's very sad.
It is.
Ash, you had your hand up?
Yes, I did. Chris, I enjoyed your talk. And since you lost all your golf buddies, would you like to join us for a game of golf today at 10 o'clock?
I wish I could. Book me for next Friday.
You're on.
Yeah, if you want to send me an email, I'd love to come play.
You got it.
Nice. We have 2 final questions in the chat. One is following up on Jackie's question. Any idea how we compare to Calgary?
Around the opioid crisis?
Yes.
Fairly similar. They're seeing the same thing. What actually happened with COVID was, with the borders closed, it actually restricted the drug flow. And so the drugs that were on the street were getting dirtier and dirtier because there wasn't new drugs coming into the system. And so we saw just a spike in overdoses. And once in a while, like just this last week, some stuff came into Alberta, we don't know where, and it hit the street, and automatically we saw those deaths. We saw a massive increase in overdoses in the inner city. So no, Calgary's in the same boat.
Thank you. And final question, can you elaborate on what a consumption site provides? Ask Jill.
So a safe consumption site, a person who's using can come in. The consumption site does not provide the drugs, but they'll provide harm reduction supplies, needles. They'll provide a space for them to use, and then they can stay there for a little while. Some people are functional addicts, so they'll actually come in and use in the morning and head to work and go do their day at work. But it provides a safe space. So if they do go down, there's medical staff right there. And the theory is, and this is my philosophy too, is let's provide folks the best way to stay alive until they get to a point where they can change. And so the consumption sites are doing that. They also offer, does somebody want to go to treatment? Do they want to take steps to get off of it? The Boyle McCully Health Center has a methadone program right there, so they can switch over from the street drugs to doing methadone and get onto an opioid program to help get them off eventually. So, and the safe consumption site is there to save lives. That's the end of the story.
Thank you very much. We do have another question, but unfortunately we need to move forward as we have some other things we need to address. So thank you again, Kris, for your presentation this morning. We will be making, as a club, we will be making a donation in your name to the Rotary International Polio Plus program, a worldwide program focused on polio eradication. We will get this certificate to you after the meeting. And thank you again for your time and your service.
Thank you so much.
Reports and announcements. We had an amazing safe scavenger hunt last weekend. I think I saw they raised $7,000. Lots of fun was had at the Rotary stop in Rotary Park. Big shout out to Doug Campbell and Laura Charrois and Rebecca Carl for making all that happen. Speaking of Doug, there was a community service meeting last night, and you wanted to just kind of hit some of the highlights of accomplishments over the year with the club.
Yeah, Mark, I think you have a slide. So the first thing that I would want to do is say that we are moving ahead with the Louis Lavoie cards for the senior citizens in our community. If any members have an interest in helping to handwrite the cards, because we want them to be a handwritten card, if they could let Sandra Fenton know. And Mark, if you can just throw up that that screen for me. We just did a year-end review of our programs that took place. And I think the biggest thing would be is that most of you have heard about our projects, but one of the things that I wanted to note is that we spent about $9,700 with, and then some other stuff, but through partnering with Rotarians themselves and with members of the community, we were able to take $9,700 and make it $24,000. So I think as we move forward in the future with community projects and with international projects as well, we should always consider how we can allow the community to partner with us on our projects. And so I just wanted to highlight that today to let you know these are the things that we do. Well, last night, as one of our last actions, we did approve one more reaching out for a young girl wanting to go to theater camp. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Doug. And thank you for your work and the work of your community, your committee that expands and contracts at will. Ribfest, apparently this is happening today. Adrian, did you want to say anything to this?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Mark. Everything's kind of all underway, set up, getting ready to go. The one thing that's just kind of left to do is to finish the traffic control setup for the lanes for the ribbers. Normally they set all that up, but they did have some experiences along their travels getting out here. One of their trucks broke down just outside of Saskatchewan, and with a blew an axle, and it was down for a couple of days getting repaired. So they actually just got in and into the lineup, as far as I know, last night about 10 o'clock. So they're going to be getting that truck all set up last night and this morning, getting them ready for our 11 a.m. start. So they've asked that if we could help set up their lanes for them. So if you have a shift this morning, if you could show up, if you are able to show up a little bit earlier, or if you're just looking for something to do around 9:30, 10 a.m. this morning, swing on by the mall. I'll be there. It's pretty easy. There's just the delineator cones that we can set up. The ribbers think that we should take us about 45 minutes or an hour to get it all set up. Everything else is ready to go. We'll get the tent and everything set up. And yeah, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be a show.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for your leadership with that, Adrian, and for all of the club members for pitching in and making it happen, this new model.
Can I ask a question about it?
Sure.
Unfortunately, I couldn't volunteer because of some things happening here, but I want to go and participate. So is it just that you can drive through? Do you need tickets ahead of time? The 50/50, does that need to be ahead of time, or can all that be bought right down on site for anybody?
You can buy that right on site. I'm sure if you wanted to buy it ahead of time too, we could make arrangements for that.
Oh, but you don't need to.
No.
Okay.
As you drive in, we'll be there with the 50/50 and the raffle tickets. Yeah, so you can buy it right there on site.
Excellent, thanks.
And that's something that's come up before. There are no tickets for the event. You drive through, you pick up your food, the 50/50 and the raffles are in addition to that. So easy peasy, saucy squeezy.
I did have a question from a neighbor about that, whether or not do you have to drive, or do you actually have the possibility of walking up and buying stuff, or do you have to drive?
No, unfortunately, for safety reasons, they can't mix vehicles and pedestrians. So it kind of has to be one way or the other. So, and because of the social distancing and all that kind of stuff, the drive-through is the one that AHS has approved.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for that. And you didn't mention, but aren't you still looking for more volunteers?
Yeah. Okay. So actually, I'm gonna ask Sandra what spots we have open right now.
Sure. Yeah, we are still looking for volunteers, especially for Saturday and Sunday, Saturday afternoon and Saturday evening, Sunday afternoon. We know that there's a lot of you that have signed up. We really appreciate those that have signed up and those that have done multiple shifts. Still have some openings there. The link is there. If you can't access the link, just send me a text message or an email and I can just go in and put you in on it. But yeah, would love to have you there, 3-hour shifts, and it's going to be a beautiful weekend. So, put some suntan lotion on and sit outside in direct traffic or sell tickets for us. We'd love to see you come out.
I have a question. Do volunteers get a discount?
No, I don't think so.
Actually, I think the Rivers will do something
do.
for us. Yeah. I don't know what the size of the discount is, but they do definitely.
Last year they gave us free food.
Yeah, I think I didn't want to put that out there for them.
Hey,
but
never mind. Just a small discount for you.
yeah, but we can. If I check with Jamie, I'm sure it's that they would give the volunteers free food. But at very least, I know there's going to be at least a substantial discount, if not free.
Maybe the club could give a volunteer a rib buck. Maybe the club could give volunteers a rib buck.
Can I chime in here? We don't give people free admissions to the gala for volunteering. We don't give them free admissions to music festival for volunteering. We volunteer because we're Rotarians. Let's volunteer. This is what we do.
Yeah, I seem to recall last time part of the problem was everybody was going up saying they were a volunteer.
Yeah, I guess it's hard for them to keep track of. But yeah, I know he has mentioned over the last few weeks, and he's offered it even to some of the other, like the mall operations guys who are helping out with the water and stuff like that. He's very, they're very forthcoming with, if you're helping out kind of thing, we'll help you out with some food type stuff. But
nice. Thank you very much.
Matt, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I just have a comment, Mark, on Saturday, I think around 4 o'clock, Zoe Brigadier is graduating. And I think she's going to be showing up in her limo just to say hi between, I think it's around 4 o'clock, her mom said. So be on the lookout for a big limo and we can all say hi to Zoe and congratulate her on her graduation. She got 97% in her French exam.
Nice. Send her through the drive-through.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Her dress is going to get dirty with all that barbecue sauce.
Matt, changeover, June 24th. Any updates for us?
Yeah, so a couple things just to make sure everybody understands. Changeover is a virtual event on Zoom with different meeting locations. So everyone's going to log into the link. You can log in from your house, the Glendale, or the Ridge. So off the top of my head, I got the official attendance sheet at work, but I think there's 2 seats left at the Glendale, and I think there's 6 seats left at the Ridge, and about 4 or 5 tea times. So if you are wanting to meet in person, shoot me an email, first come, first serve, and I will throw you on the list. It's going to be fun.
Thank you very much, Matt. Any other announcements? Hearing none. Our next morning meeting is June 18th. Ashley Morgan from AUMA and Teacher of the Month. And this lovely article showed up in the Gazette this Wednesday. So we're getting lots of great profile, and thanks again to the Gazette for their support. Birthdays and anniversaries, and that is our very own Natalia.
Okay, so we have Jackie Hansen, 34 years for wedding anniversaries, and we have Shana Grelak, 21 years, January 17. And we have Jada Rotary, we have Donna Wolf, 6 years, January 12, and Laszlo Sequoia, 17 years, January 16. So congratulations to all the guys.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Natalia. Congratulations to all. Our sergeants at arms, if you wouldn't mind, gentlemen.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry, what was that, Mark?
I was speaking French, donc.
Oh, bonjour, ça va bien?
Bien. That's about all I got.
Well, at least
How
you
you
didn't
doing
ask them to
today?
sleep with you. That seems to be everyone's French.
Yeah, yeah. How are you doing today?
I'll admit I slept in this morning.
Just wanted to call you out on it because that
I know
happens
you
to me.
did. Yeah, I deserve it. It's okay. Because I call you out all the times you're not here.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So we have Rib Fest this weekend. That's exciting.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to have the meat sweats by the end of the weekend. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
I hope everyone has volunteered though.
You know what? Our finds this morning revolve around volunteering. So for those people who have not booked a shift yet, you still have a minute or two before I start asking you for money.
Perfect. So scavenger hunt, I think, eh?
Let's start with that while everyone who's not in the scavenger hunt books their shifts to help Sandra out.
Perfect. Okay. Natalia, 2 numbers between 1 and 7, please.
6.
6. Perfect. That's Scott. I don't think I see him on the phone.
Oh.
No. Okay. Pick another number.
Okay, if not, then 2.
2. Perfect. That's Daryl Baker. And another number, please.
4.
4. And that's Jody Swanson. Okay. So Daryl and Jody. So in honor of Rib Fest, you need a bib or a wet nap. I don't see anybody moving. Oh, Daryl's gone. Where's Jody?
He has no camera.
Jody, I don't hear you. I see your picture. Are you running?
Yeah, she sent us a message saying that she has no camera. I don't know if that has anything to do with a wet nap, but I don't think she can prove it. So
Daryl's running. He's still gone. Is just his door's open. Just a oh, what does he have here?
Nothing.
You got nothing.
We're low on bibs and wet naps at our house. I'm sorry, man. I'm out.
Can I have it?
You got it.
I do have wet wipes because I still have kids, but I can't show you because I have no camera.
Oh,
So
perfect, Jody.
Give it to Jody. I trust her.
There you go, Jody. You get $17.50 for your efforts. Good job.
Awesome.
I'll
I'm
buy you
going to
some
turn
ribs for
around
those
and
wet
put
naps.
that back into my little kitty for continuing to play.
Okay, perfect. I'll do that. Thanks, Jody. That's scavenger hunt. That's just so easy, everyone. You got to donate and you can have so much fun. You get some exercise in the morning.
Yeah, Daryl got his blood running, and
Yeah.
you know, don't you feel better, Daryl?
I feel unbelievable.
Yeah, you don't beat a sweat up there. You should get a wet nap and just wipe it off. Yeah.
Perfect.
All right, so fines. Everyone knows what's coming. Can I get everybody who has volunteered for a shift for Rib Fest this weekend to please stand up? If you volunteered, up on your feet, please. Okay, the rest of you can email me $5. Please. That's really simple, but I'd like to see the number of people who stood up, but for the rest of you, we'll take your money, please. And we're going to use it for ribs for the volunteers.
What if they maybe signed up for a shift instead of the $5?
Well, if you send me proof of your shift, I will waive your $5, no problem. Yeah, happy to do that. And I do like the couple of texts I got before I even issued the fines of reasons why people couldn't volunteer for shifts. It's like, don't fine me, please. So I got 3 or 4 of those. That was fun. Okay, let's jump into Happy Bucks. What do we have? Who's happy today? Kim Bagheera, what do you have?
I'm super happy that we have Rotarians that help us in all aspects of life, because my daughter took driver's training with Joe and just got her license on her first try, no problem. So now I have freedom because she's driving herself to all her appointments, and I'm so happy. So thanks to Rotarians, that's my happy buck.
And you know, Kim is one of the ones I'm actually going to give a pass. She sent me her excuse over a text message. She's quarantining, so we can't let her near the food. All right, I'll take that one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That one's valid. Yeah, Doug, what do you got, buddy?
I'm happy because my granddaughter, who is a grade 11 student, got accepted into the university, was hired by the University of Alberta to be engaged in some of their research programming. So that was pretty special for us.
That's awesome. Wow. Very impressive. Craig, you had a hand up, I believe, for.
Yeah, so I got a happy buck, John. So about 30 seconds after Jason Kenney announced yesterday that COVID second shots were opening up, I booked online and went from 17,000 and change to booked in about 40 minutes. And then we got ours about 3 hours later. So done and dusted as far as the COVID shots go.
That's awesome.
To be done. Yeah.
Great news. Yeah. Everyone get your shots. And we're not just talking about Sambuca. All right. I saw Daryl, I think you had your hand up.
I did. I can list a few different things. So actually Kelly and I go for our second shot at 11 o'clock this morning. So I did the same thing there, Craig, jumped on that. But I think the thing that I was probably happiest about is last night, with the restaurants opening, Kelly and I took out her mom and my parents who live in a seniors residence for the first time in like forever, and went to Ricky's and sat at a table and had a fantastic 2-hour meal, and it was awesome. It was great.
That is great. You can just send me one happy buck. You don't have to send me like 4. Although if you want to send 4, I'm not going to object because we do have a budget to hit. So, you know. And we only have one more week of this gong show of you and I, don't we, Mark?
I think so, yeah. And then it's just me.
Then you're ready for me.
Yeah.
That'll feel good for you.
Training wheels are finally off, Mark.
Yeah, the training wheels are off. So everyone.
We should be getting some happy bucks out of you, Mark, that you don't have to put up with me anymore.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
I like that. I'll put that out there.
There you go. Anyone else happy? We got some happy people out there, I'm sure.
John, I'll jump on the vaccination train because in about 38 minutes, I'll be getting my second shot.
Perfect.
You know, and we're going to have an auction to see, you know, who will bid the most to be able to give Doug that shot. Wouldn't that be a great fundraiser?
I wonder if the girl will pull it out of a bag with an envelope.
What's in the needle, Doug?
Don't know. You're about to find out. Anyone else there really happy?
I'll give you a happy bucks, John. I'm on vacation at my place in BC for the first time since last summer due to this darn COVID. So
good for you, man. That's awesome. Really happy to hear that. And you're still on the meeting, so that's awesome. And who else do we have? Well, I'm going to jump in there. I finally got my motorcycle license this week, so I'm no longer riding illegally, which is nice.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Tried to get it last year, but with COVID, they canceled all the exams. So I sold my bike and then bought a new one this spring and tried again.
Hey, John, I have a question.
Oh, yeah. Yes, my friend.
Okay, so you're not going to be at Sergeant Armistead tomorrow, so I'm going to be with Mark Moran.
That's right. So after changeover dinner with the new executive team, Mark will be the only sergeant. But Natalia, if he's not nice to you, you let me know and I'll go rough him up for you. Yeah.
Well, I meant
I got your
to
back, my
you
friend.
guys.
Yeah. But we've had a good 2 years together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll still be around because I'm doing Ways and Means. So I'll be here. Don't worry.
Okay.
But Mark, you be nice to her.
No, I will. Don't you worry.
I know you will. Yeah. He's nicer than me anyway. Any last happy bucks or even funds from the floor for that matter? Going once. Going twice. If you were muted and your camera off and you wanted to talk, you lost your chance. I'm all done. Back to you, President Mark.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Natalia. Social media, I'm just going to throw this out there. I think it's going to be a thing. So, hop on the bandwagon now. We are there big time. Lots happening around RibFest. Check it out. You are simply the best. Kris, thank you so much for being our guest speaker today. Ken, definitely for your inspirational moment. Natalia for birthdays and anniversaries. John and Mark, our guests. Shout out to the two presidents of our clubs, Rebecca and Laura, presidents of Interact and Rotaract community. And remember, if you need support for yourself or anyone else, Lynn King is our caring coordinator. She's doing some great things behind the scenes. Lots of online resources. We are so close, my friends. We can get through this together. Please join me in the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Will it be fun? Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. See you at RibFest.
See you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Kris. Much appreciated.